the Positive Gains is back today, and our special guest, Carolina Ravassa. She is a dancer, a voiceover actress, as well as a regular actress, and an active streamer on Twitch. Carolina, thank you for joining today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. So we'll get started right away with your background, like where you're from and how you got started into what propelled you into today.
Well, I was born and raised in Cali, Colombia, in South America, and I was raised in a multilingual, multicultural household. So I spoke English and Spanish growing up. And I think both of my parents are very artsy, so they kind of encouraged us to, me and my two sisters, to, you know, we did painting as kids, and we did all sorts of fun art projects and stuff. And one of my passions early on was acting, because I like to say I was hyper. So my mom kind of saw that in me. She used to own a nursery school, so she was good at kind of seeing what makes kids tick and makes them happy. So they knew that I liked being on stage and singing and stuff like that. So I auditioned for a play when I was 5, and I got the part for Gretel in The Sound of Music. And then since then, I kind of just loved doing theater. So I wanted to continue doing all the plays that I could in my school. And then when it came time to, you know, leave and apply to colleges, I figured I wanted to do something that I loved. And well, one of the only things that I really thought I was good at, you know, like you want to pursue something that you enjoy. Well, at least that's how I was raised. So I knew that doing theater and art would make me happy. So I studied acting, and I mean, there are other steps to how I got to where I am now, but I'm sure we'll hit upon those as we continue.
Yeah, and I thought it was real interesting with your work in the video games. I used to be a real big gamer, not so much anymore, but Max Payne 3 and Red Dead Redemption, love that game, the first one.
Yeah.
Overwatch, Grand Theft Auto. So out of those, what were your favorites?
You know, I think they've all been very different experiences. The first game that I ever worked on was Max Payne 3. And for me, it was really special because it was the first time I had done motion capture. And the team was super inviting and kind. And in the end, you're just kind of working with nerds who love video games. So it was really fun to just put on the motion capture suit and get to work with. It was with a bunch of Brazilians because that game is based in Sao Paulo. So I got that role because I spoke a little Portuguese, and they needed Brazilian Portuguese speakers. So it was kind of like I was playing a lot of different townspeople or just locals, you know. But that was like the first taste of video game stuff. And then Rockstar Games has been very good to me and has since then cast me in 3 other projects. So I'm very grateful to them for that experience with motion capture, because that kind of gave me, you know, without doing any mocap before, going into work with them kind of got me ready for, you know, I audition for mocap all the time now in LA. So that was really fun. But I think that, you know, Sombra and Raze have been characters in Overwatch and Valorant that are more meaty. So I get to really dive into the character and understand their quirks. And I'm really passionate about both of them. So they're very different things, but I feel like all of the experiences that I've had in video games have really helped me, you know, get better at what I do and continue that journey of voice acting.
Yeah, we were, my friends and I, back in 2008, 9-ish, we were big time Gears of War fans.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Gears of War 2. So we played a lot of that, and obviously Halo and Grand Theft Auto. So how hard is that with the motion capture if you're not familiar with it? I mean, when you first started, obviously now, you know, you're a pro at it, but was that kind of like a difficult adjustment? Or
I mean, I think that in the end, it's just kind of improv in a really big empty space with a set that has been made of PVC pipes. So I think that for maybe somebody who's only done voice work in the booth, it can be kind of weird to like incorporate your body. But I think a lot of actors that end up doing motion capture have done theater or film already. So you know how to behave on a set, you know how to act with your whole body, you know. So I guess the cool thing is you don't have to worry about hair and makeup and any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Always wearing a helmet, you have little dots on your face, and you're wearing like what essentially is a wetsuit. but I think that it can get a little bit weird when the contraption on your head is heavy, and then there's these like kind of metal bars that poke out of the helmet, so that then there's a camera filming you from whatever you're doing. So sometimes if you get close to another actor, your cameras could butt heads, so that's the only thing where I feel like, okay, you got to get used to this thing and move around with it. But for the most part, I just find it like it's like acting in theater. It's actually really neat because you do have to use your imagination, and you do have to say, okay, this is the door to a Maserati, but it's not. It's like this car made out of pipes. So you kind of have to go, this is what this world is, even though you're just in this huge warehouse,
Yeah, and I always thought of that with like a lot of the films like The Jungle Book, and I didn't realize how many, I don't know the kid's name, the guy that played Mowgli, but something similar, having to use your imagination. Or Planet of the Apes would be another one. So many people computerized, and then those suits. That'd be difficult. But so leading into voiceover work for TV shows, like Big City Greens, which my kids love.
Oh, cool.
They love it. Victor and Valentino and Loud House. So when you transition, is that a little easier than the voiceover work for a video game? Because I've heard too that people don't film at the same time, that you might do your line and then the person come in and
I think that if anybody's ever taken an acting class or has done already, I studied theater in college, so I was prepared for acting opposite somebody on stage, or when you work on a film set and maybe that other person can't be there because you're in a weird position, so that you can't act with them looking at you, but you're kind of just looking at a dot on the wall because it's the tight space. So you kind of learn sometimes to act opposite nothing, or just a voice that's coming from somewhere. So we use all of that to incorporate it into the booth, right? When I'm working on a cartoon, usually if we're lucky, we get to record with the whole cast, but usually we don't. So it really is like, okay, this is my line. Maybe the casting director or whoever's reading, the voice director will read the other actor's line, but we won't really know the intonation. And then I kind of just have to imagine it and respond like I would. So, that can get, it's not hard. It's preferable to be able to work with the cast because you kind of feed off each other and the energy is great. And for Victor and Valentino, we get to record in a group. I just recorded for the Casa Grandes, which is like they cross-pollinate with Loud House on Nickelodeon. Okay. And it was neat because even though we were all separate, in our own like closets, I recorded in my closet, we were on Zoom. So we got to like see what the other guy had just said. And then I got to feed off of that. And we were doing the kid voices and they're screaming together. And so you kind of at least get to feel the energy instead of just, I'm alone in my booth and I'm going, go, go, go. Yeah. But I feel like if you've done animation and have never done video games, it might be tricky to go into that because you're going to be doing a lot of dying sounds and fight sounds that can be tough on the throat. But I think that most voice actors have gotten a taste of things, even a cartoon, if he's falling, you're gonna go through these sounds that maybe a 7-year-old kid does, but then in, Final Fantasy, you're going to be an angel dying or whatever. Right. So you kind of just adjust. So I think that anyone who's done acting can sort of transition into the booth, but I do think voice actors have found voices inside of them that they would never, I'm a 35-year-old woman. I wouldn't be playing a 7-year-old kid in film and TV, but I can sound like one. So I've like created all these little characters that I get to use for voice work that I think is almost like limitless. We get to do whatever, which we get to play little boys, even though I'm a girl, like it's cool to get to play monsters and aliens and, you name it.
Yeah. I didn't realize too, one of my favorite shows was Rugrats growing up. And how many different roles that one person would take on, and even now in a lot of work. So how hard is it? I know you talk about, your background in theater, but training your voice for a specific or multiple roles. I mean, how hard is that? I mean, to sound like a 7-year-old boy and then, go up and down.
I never thought about it like that. I I've trained my voice for sure, because I would sing in musicals, or I've had to, I'm not a great singer, but I've had to sometimes warm up and work specifically on certain things. But I think that when creating characters, I just kind of let my mind wander and be crazy. And if, they show you an image of a little fuzzy sort of creature and you go, oh, I think it would sound like this, that might be it. Or, a friend comes in and tries, oh, I think it'll sound like this. So we just kind of have to be weird, right? And connect to our inner child, and not judge ourselves too harshly, because sometimes that's the voice that's going to be chosen, right? I have friends who, are very much, they act, they're amazing actors, but they generally play their age and their gender and their type, and they're like, I don't do voices, I can't, or I'm not good at accents, and that's fine. That I just think there's like different things that we do, and for some reason I loved voices as a kid, so I was able to sort of start mimicking them and then making them my own. And unfortunately, I didn't start really working in animation till about 3 years ago. I was dying to do it in New York. I just wanted to use my kid voice and be in a cartoon. But New York City does a lot of commercial work for radio, but they don't do a lot of animation. So I moved to LA, and finally, like, the world has opened and I get to audition. Even if I don't book them, I know that I'm auditioning for really big, cool, DreamWorks projects or Pixar or whatever. And it lets me expand my creativity and my imagination, and my range.
Do you feel that you're more creative with voiceover work as opposed to regular, if they give you a role as far as regular, I don't say regular acting, but, an in-person movie? You feel like you're more creative?
I think the medium lends itself for that. Again, like, I don't know if I'll ever, I guess on Star Trek I could play an alien, but I think that cartoons, just because it's not our image, we can be anything. I can be an ant, I can play a rock or a singing palm tree, like, that's all crazy. I think for film and TV, I want to be that creative, but I'm limited to what I look like, right? So unless they want this face, they're not going to give me that audition. And I think that, great question. I think that we find ways to be creative differently in each medium, but I do think that animation and video games just kind of like opens up this Pandora's box that's a little crazy and fun. I'm dying to do more film and TV live action stuff, but again, it's going to be something that looks like my type. Like, if I sound like this on, a cartoon, like I totally look ridiculous making that voice coming out of this little body, and I'm a small person, so there's only like levels of what you can play. But I'd like to think that I could be versatile as well in film and TV, with accents.
With accents.
Yeah.
And when you try out for these roles, especially with voiceovers, is it a panel of people that you go up against, or are you submitting a video now with the pandemic with Zoom, or how does that work?
For cartoons and video games, it's been, for the most part, always MP3s that we send in. In New York, there was a lot of in-person auditions, and in LA too, where you go in, you audition just on the microphone for a character, and they say thank you, and then after like a couple days, they let you know if you're in the running, or they might really like your voice, but they might want to tweak the audition, so you come in for a callback, and you might book it, you might not. For film and TV, everything used to be in person for a very long time. Then self-tapes started happening, and those were auditions that you shoot at home with your, you set up your iPhone on a little tripod like this, and you have a light, and you have a blank, wall that you stand in front of. And so luckily we had kind of started veering towards that. And now with the pandemic, it's only like that. So I have a setup here. You can see my ring light, that right there. I set my camera up there, and I shoot my auditions with a friend via Skype, or my sister who lives with me here. So, it's tricky. I guess we don't get as nervous because we don't go in the room. So we can shoot an audition a million times and see, and hopefully do our best while doing that. But we also don't get in-person feedback. Sometimes you want the casting director there saying, that was awesome, totally off the character, so let's tweak it, like this character is supposed to be younger and a little more, insecure. And I might have sent in a self-tape where I'm just this very mature feeling, secure person. And then so it's nice to be able to have a second take where the casting director says, hey, awesome job, let's try it differently. And sometimes, you know, that happens for self-tapes. You get an adjustment, so you re-record and you send it in again. But you know, it's a mixed bag how it all goes down.
Right on. You want to talk about your web series that you created?
Sure. I was auditioning a lot in New York for lots of different roles, but a lot of them that I went in for were Hispanic characters because I am from South America. And I was getting told a lot that I looked too white to play Latina. So I wouldn't get the role. And I mean, they could have also thought I just wasn't a good actress. And so, but you know, the feedback I kept hearing was, oh, she was too white. We went for a more Hispanic looking person. And then when I'd audition for a white girl, they're like, oh, she's a little too ethnic. And I'd be like, what? So after a while, I was so frustrated. And I decided to do like these little 3-minute kind of vignettes that I put up on YouTube. And I play all the characters. So I'm always Carolina playing my plain old self. And I kind of play a lame version of me. She's very much like, okay, I'm an actress, I'm going to audition. And then like the bigger characters or the sketch comedy characters, it's me, you know, in a wig with like makeup on. So I kind of act opposite myself and I edit it all together. So it was a little web series that I made with a lot of love and my own time and no money. It was just me working on my computer and shooting stuff all over my house. So it was just a web series that I created to tell my stories, because everything that happens in the web series is a true story. The casting told me, or casting directors or agents or even other actors, you know. So it was just like trying to put out there that like, I'd love to play my own ethnicity and nationality, but I can't because nobody thinks I'm Colombian, you know? So it kind of turned into comedy because after a while you have to laugh at it, you know?
How hard was that? I mean, obviously you turned it into comedy, but some people would duck and run and you know, make that a negative aspect of their life. So
yeah, I like to think that I turned my problem into my solution, but that was after the fact, right? Like I think there were many times where, you know, at the beginning, okay, I was too white to play Latina. Okay, great. Okay, got it. No, taken. And then after the 5th time, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what? This time I'm gonna put these big hoops on because everyone thinks a Latina has like, you know, the big hoops, and I'm gonna like put my hair up real tight in a bun or like a high ponytail, and I'm gonna, you know, I got a broad to make me look a little more boobalicious, and because I'm not your stereotypical Latina that. Or your typical Latina. It's a mix of things, you know. That Latinas can be voluptuous, Latinas can be really skinny, and I just kind of had an outfit, you know. I use quotation marks because it was like, oh, this is my Latina outfit where I'm gonna make myself look, you know, like a fly girl, and I depending on the role I would put on an accent. So I was trying to like accommodate to what I thought they wanted, and that didn't work out too well either. So I feel like there have been moments where I would get down on myself. And at the end of my web series in the first season, my character's crying and like I turn it into this very melodramatic thing, like Celine Dion singing all by myself. My character's crying and her mascara's running, and you know, and the joke is that I end up like just like crying on the street like a crazy person. But that stemmed from an experience where I had just auditioned for a Spike Lee project, and I was supposed to audition for this like, you know, Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese chick, and they said, oh, she just didn't look Brazilian enough. And I was like I don't look anything enough, you know. And I just remember crying on the street corner in New York City, and just being like fuck, I don't know what to do anymore, you know. Like,
yeah.
And it was almost this identity crisis where it was just like, I just want to act, but people keep telling me I'm not enough of anything, so I'm just stuck in the middle. I'm like this parentheses, you know. And then it started coming around because you go, I'm not going to quit because the industry is telling me I'm not enough of this or not enough of that, you know. And I really do think that that's where I turned it into my strength. And in my web series, I'm showcasing not only that I can be Latina, but that I can play Italian and Russian and Brazilian, because I'm doing all these accents. And if I say so myself, I think I do a pretty good job with them, you know. And then you kind of get over it and you go, you know what? F that. I'm going to show up, however, to this audition. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to focus on the work because it's about the character. It's not about the stupid hoops or the dumb shirt. It's about me showing up as myself. And even if I haven't booked a ton of stuff, since then. I feel like at least I'm being authentic to me, and I'm focusing on what I like and what I think is my strong suit. And I've also moved into the voice acting community that has totally embraced the fact that I can do tons of Hispanic accents. Like in Victor and Valentino, I do an accent from Spain, I do a Mexican accent, I do Brazilian, I do, Colombian. So I think voice acting has given me because it doesn't matter what I look like, I can just like show up and I can talk like this Russian. I'm not really Russian, but I do this and it's going to be fine. So I think that it's like sitting in enough of your, pardon the word, but in your shit for a little bit, and then going, okay, let's turn this into manure. How do I make it grow? You know what I mean? And that's where like, I encourage this I go to Comic Cons a lot and meet Sombra fans who thank me for, bringing this character to life because they haven't felt positive representation for Latinos in the industry. And I feel like everybody has something very unique without like, just like glossing it and being like, oh, everyone's special. It's like, dude, you're special. You're doing this podcast because you have a unique voice and you're expressing that to the world, right? So it's like having everybody connect to what like they truly love or are passionate about and have that meet their career somehow, right? So, and even if you're not being super successful at the beginning, if you keep doing this podcast, it grows, it goes somewhere. It's just, it's drive and it's perseverance and persistence. We can't do 2 episodes of something and say, oh, it didn't do well, I'm going to quit. Like we can't quit. We have to keep going for a while until we start seeing the fruits of it. But if we love it enough, I think that's where our magic is,
Yeah, I've talked to a few people that have said the same type deal, that they're being put in, they're being labeled and basically being put in a box. And some people, have a good enough support system and they're able to climb out of there, or like you kept persevering and driving forward. But that is something I think that's been around for a while. And unfortunately, I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So one thing too was, I always ask everybody that comes on, I always say advice, but like for you, I feel like, you're one of the perfect candidates really to give advice because, the topics that you've hit on already, that you've been able to be told no, but you stayed true, like you said, authentic, and you've made your own path. What would you tell somebody, a young person, anybody aspiring? Would you tell them that, because I know there's no golden school that's just gonna graduate you and boom, you're gonna hit the ground running. But if there was similar, the outline that you have, if you can share, what would your advice be?
Well, I mean, I think like with my web series, it's if you think that you have a problem, try and turn it into your solution. If it's not a clear one like that, where you're just saying, I keep trying to do this, but it's not working. I think that we always have to find out what's authentic to us. People say, oh, how can I grow my YouTube channel like you? Or give me advice on how to Twitch live stream. And I think that the answer is just, be yourself, right? If you think that you have something unique to show on your Twitch channel, or as a performer or as a musician, like if you love Taylor Swift, you don't have to try and copy her, because Taylor Swift is already doing what she's doing. Right. Like, what is it that you're bringing to the world that is so unique? Like Billie Eilish is so unique. And if she had tried to copy anybody, she wouldn't be Billie Eilish, right? And I think that that's where artists have a lot of guts, because they're putting their vulnerabilities out on the line and showing their true selves instead of I'm sure a lot of other artists are just copying somebody else and maybe they're not as authentic. But I think that the true masters that we love to watch and that we get inspired with when we watch on stage, or, as performers or as writers, they're using their very unique voice, right? And so if you can tap into that, that's like number one. And number two is we're going to get rejected a million times, you know? Like, I love when famous successful people, you know, publish their 20 rejection letters that they got for, you know, from different publishers, and then finally like that one person that decided to publish their book and it became a bestseller, right? So if you quit at rejection number 5, you'll never know if it could have gone somewhere, right? And I think that with my web series, I put out the first 8 or 10 episodes and then I stopped. And dude, honestly, I think that my parents, my sisters, and like my grandma, that's a lie, my grandma had died by then, both of them, but you know, like the close people in my life followed that, like subscribed. So my YouTube channel was tiny. And then, but people were following it on Facebook and they were resharing, and I felt honored that they loved characters, and they're like, oh my God, bring it back. And so, you know, 8 months later, I was like, hey, I kind of miss these characters. Yeah, let's do season 2. So I revved up to do season 2, and I started sharing it, and then my friends would like reshare it. And it was like this cool, like, you know, support of the diehard Hispanglo-Saxon fans that were just my close people, and a few like strangers that I didn't know that were coming across it. And then all of a sudden, you know, I get Sombra. So now I got visibility. So then I got to share my YouTube channel with the Sombra lovers. And then the Sombra lovers became my Hispanglo-Saxon lovers. And then they started subscribing. And so you kind of don't know what's going to come after. But if you keep doing what you're doing, you could stumble across somebody who's going to help you out. Or you could book another role that's going to help you out. So I feel like I didn't know what was going to happen to my web series or with it. And since then, I've done, you know, a total of what I call 4 seasons, and they're all different. Sometimes I've included Sombra stuff, sometimes I haven't, but I think that it's just like, it made me happy. So during the pandemic, that was what I focused on at the beginning. I was like, I'm alone in my apartment with my characters, but you better believe they're going to come out. And in the end, like, it is, be happy while you're doing it, because if you're hating it, then it's just going to be a really painful process.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you've I'm trying to think, you've said basically find your why is basically what I've got from that, your why, you know, and why you want to do it, and then work, like you've mentioned before. A lot of people want to jump the line or get I don't want to say a handout, but they want a big,
like a shortcut.
Yeah, the shortcut. And like you said, you know, you've got to persevere and put the work in. And I've read a lot, and I've seen a lot of people that pay tons of money for, you know, these gigs, and sometimes they get scammed, and I really feel bad for them. So
yeah. And even like, you know, when you pay for followers or something, like, okay, so you built your following and now you have 100,000 followers, but those followers really aren't interested in your work. They're paid to be there. They might hit a like once a week, and you want people who are truly invested in your work, because that's what's going to mean that you're doing something that people are interested in, you know? So those things do have to be organic in that sense, you know? Like, you want people to be looking at what you're doing, not just like a fan base that's fake, you know?
Yeah, you want the real ones, because you know, when I first started, so many people, that's how many followers do you have? How many subscribers? I'm like, well, not a lot yet, but I'm not going to pay for them. I'm just going to wait it out. But it is hard, because in this day and age, that's what you're based upon, is your followers, regardless if it's, you know, organic or not.
Yeah. And I feel like, sadly, we do live in a world that pays attention to that stuff, which is helpful for some things, but not for others. And I think that, you know, there are people who can have a ton of followers, but I don't think they're necessarily creating good content, or they aren't happy even with that following. You know, followers doesn't mean happiness either. And I think that we get caught in this, oh, they're so popular. It's like, yeah, but they're actually probably very unhappy, because they feel like they have to churn out material every day, or else their followers will unfollow them. And I don't feel like that's a healthy relationship with social media either, you know? So I think we always need to find what's making us tick on our own, and being able to spread that joy, you know?
So what's next for you in 2021? What does that hold for you?
1 million followers. What's next for me? Well, I produced and acted in a film in November. It's an indie film done with a lot of love, blood, sweat, and tears. So we're editing that right now, and we're collaborating with a really great team. So it's our baby, but it's slowly happening. And I feel like that's a lot of energy is going to go into that. I've been doing Twitch live streams. So twice a week I have voice actors on, and I kind of interview them and we hang, and it's just fun because I get to socialize with them, and then, my followers get to ask them questions. So it's been a really kind of fun way to get to know other actors better, and also like showcase them on the Twitch channel. I sound like a grandma saying the Twitch, and I'm still auditioning for a bunch of stuff, so even though I have like awesome video game credits, I still audition weekly for new video games. I get into my closet and I've recorded for Casa Grandes and for other animations. So I feel like hopefully more video game and animation things happen. I have some that I can't talk about. I'm working on 2 projects that I've signed NDAs for that, are secret, but and then just like audition for film and TV, we're doing that, and we actors are doing that. But I hope that for this year, like I'd love to book, a TV show or a movie that I can work on, because I do miss the live action stuff as much as I love voiceover. So, I kind of want it to be a mix of things. And gosh, I hope things open up so we can start traveling to Comic Cons again, because I do miss the interaction in person, and I miss being able to well, I don't know if we're going to be able to hug people, but I do miss kind of that interaction. I'm getting tired of screens like everybody else,
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I haven't been at Comic-Con, and my goal is to go to one in the one that they hold in San Diego that's closest to me. So hopefully, they get Comic-Con back up and running.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I've learned a lot today. I really appreciate you. Again, this is another reason why I do the podcast, is so I can learn and grow. And I appreciate you coming on. And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Yeah, and I said yes to this because I think that we need to spread more joy, and you talk about good vibes and like putting good stuff out in the world, and I think that that's what we need to focus on more, instead of hate
Negativity
online and trolls just saying stupid stuff. Like I think that if you don't have anything nice to say on the internet, just focus on your people and trying to be a good person and spread the love. So that's why I really appreciated your message, and I wish you the best of luck with this podcast, because we need more of them like this.
Thank you. I appreciate you.